Hi there, I'm Kev Lavery, and today I'm going to talk to you about assessment and grades. While there are many different ways you can assess a student's work, all assessment fits into two categories: formative assessment and summative assessment. Formative assessment, also known as assessment for learning, is about highlighting what is being learned. It's usually less formal and occurs during a unit of work. Summative assessment, also called assessment of learning, is about measuring what has been learned. It's usually a more formalized process and usually occurs at the end of a unit of work. Formative assessment activities can be things like drafts, quizzes, discussions, work samples, conversations, self-evaluations, and informal observations. Summative assessment activities are more likely to be things like tests, exams, presentations, essays, and workplace observations. Something you can measure. Something you can mark against a set of criteria. But this is by no means a definitive list, and there are plenty of crossover activities. It's not as much about the activity as it is the purpose of that activity. The primary purpose of formative assessment is to inform teaching and learning. What still needs to be covered? What have your students already developed a clear understanding of? What skills have they attained? What level of refinement is still needed? It's about the process, and in formative assessment, grading is more open and fluid. It's feedback on how the student is going. It's something that they can use going forward to do better. The primary purpose of summative assessment is to assess learning, to test retention, and to measure understanding. This data can be used for documentation of student achievement, as well as reflecting on the effectiveness of your current curriculum. Summative assessment is about the result. The grading is closed and usually acts as a snapshot in time, a measure of a student's level of understanding at the end of a unit of work. Formative assessment asks what is being learned, while summative assessment asks what has been learned. So how does that fit in with TAFE Queensland's learning management system Connect? It's possible to use Connect tools to run both formative and summative assessment activities. A quiz could be a formative assessment task to help a student test their knowledge and figure out what areas still need attention. Or it could be a summative task that actually measures the student's understanding and goes towards assessing their competency. In Connect, whether an activity is formative or summative is about whether or not they're linked to the grades tool. The grades tool is where all the grades in your unit are held. You'll have a variety of assessments in Connect, and if they're summative assessment tasks, they're funneled into here. It doesn't just have to be online stuff either. The grades tool can be formatted to record and release grades for offline activities as well. The grades tool also takes student numerical results and, using a scale called a grading scheme, translates them into the language of TAFE Queensland's competency-based framework. Once you've marked your students' assessments, the grades tool can also help you generate their final result for the unit. This will let them know they've successfully completed all the required assessments in Connect. While this is a fairly complex area, from a teacher's perspective, you can think of this as a ledger that your assessment items feed into. It's a record of assessments, but not one that you usually need to adjust or change. Grades are configured as part of the product that's pre-populated into your unit. This standardization ensures that grades are calculated and issued the same way across all of TAFE Queensland. That way, we can ensure there's greater consistency across units and qualifications, regardless of when or where a student undertakes their assessment.